back to another episode of the Amateur Hour Podcast. I am your host, Jacob, and Adam is with me today.
Hey, guys.
And since Adam's here, we're bringing soccer content back on the show. We're talking about the Premier League and who is the most underrated player in the Premier League. This is a topic I'm pretty excited to cover, but we'll jump right into it. The first one for me, we're going to talk about 5 players, but the first one for me is Wilfred Ndidi. He's been a little bit more on the radar recently because of how impressive his stats are. He had the so far this season he has the most tackles with 59, and he has the most interceptions with 36. He also had the most tackles the past 2 seasons running. So if he were to finish this season with the most again, he would be 3 seasons in a row where he has the most tackles. Last year at 143, the year before he had 138. Also last season, he was 3rd for interceptions with 81, just behind Capu, who had 86, and Wan-Bissaka had 84. And last season, he had the 17th most passes in the Premier League, which is pretty impressive for a guy like him. You consider him to be more of just like a tackler, defender, but 17th out of all Premier League players in passing is pretty impressive for me. And just does a great job screening the back line for Leicester. They build out a little bit through him, as you can see with the passing stats. He is a absolutely pivotal part of this Leicester team. He's filled in the role that, the void that Conte left when he went to Chelsea to a considerable degree. He's done a great job with Leicester, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
And as a 22-year-old, still has a big future ahead of him. Whenever I watch Leicester, it's hard to break through that midfield because he's there. He's only 6 foot, not a taller defensive-minded player, but he still gets the job done.
Honestly, I didn't know he was 22.
He's
That's
22.
Ridiculous. That's
yeah.
ridiculous. And this could be a 3rd year in a row where he has the most tackles in the Premier League. That's insane. That's insane.
All right. So my first unknown player, his name is Jack O'Connell. He is a center half who plays for the newly promoted Sheffield and who are currently in 5th. Probably the biggest surprise this year.
I had them going down, no doubt.
Jacob, I probably had him going down too. So, Jack O'Connell, who is he? I want to compare his stats this year to Virgil van Dijk's. So, O'Connell has 5 clean sheets to Van Dijk's 2. 9 goals conceded as a team for Jack O'Connell, while Liverpool have 10. And his tackle success rate is 89%. When he goes into a tackle,
he's coming with the ball.
8.9 times out of 10, he's coming out with the ball, where Virgil van Dijk's is 67%.
Wow.
So, considerably, obviously playing for 2 different teams. One probably more attacking-minded in Liverpool, one playing for more defensive-minded Sheffield.
You'd be surprised when you watch them play. They don't just sit back.
They're actually pretty entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Definitely a good center back. He could. I mean, Sheffield, if they keep going, they could surprise some people.
They could. I mean, the way they're playing, like they're getting results against every team.
Yeah.
They're coming up against Man United next. I'm honestly not looking forward to playing them. They just tied Tottenham. Probably deserve to win that game for what I saw.
What was before Tottenham?
What?
Who did they play before Tottenham?
Was it West Ham?
Yeah.
What was the score?
They drew.
2-2.
2-2.
Was it West Ham?
It might have been a couple games before that.
No. They played Burnley.
Yeah.
Beat them 3-0. Then before that was West Ham. They beat the Burnley team 3-0. That beat West Ham 3-0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Jack O'Connell, keep an eye on him. Very good defender.
There's a lot of guys on Sheffield you
yeah.
talk about, like Enda Stevens. We've talked about him on the show. O'Connell. I'm a pretty fan of Oliver Norwood. Lindstrom as well, but O'Connell is one that I didn't know about until you brought him up. That's a very good selection. But my next one, who I think is the most underrated player in the Premier League, the single most underrated player in the Premier League, is Philip Billing on Bournemouth. Just signed for Bournemouth, played at Huddersfield in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons. Was one of the only bright spots, if not the only bright spot, of Huddersfield last season.
Besides Eric Durham, of course. But
of course, the legendary Eric Durham. But this season, he's 2nd most for interceptions, was 30, behind Ndidi's 36, and he's 20th in tackles. Last season, he was 30th in interceptions and 21st in tackles, but that was on a lowly Huddersfield team. So, got a better move to an exciting team. He starts every game for Bournemouth in the midfield. He's calm on the ball. I think he's a quality player in defense, and you can't deny the 6'6" presence that he has in the midfield. And he's still like pretty mobile for his size, if I'm honest. And I mean, second most interceptions, that kind of speaks for itself. This guy, like, nobody really knows much about him. Danish player, he's up and coming. He's very young as well. I'm just gonna look up his age real quick, but 23 years old, bright future ahead. He's probably got an international career coming up for him with Denmark. We'll see if they qualify for the European Championships, but. Like from what I see, he's a quality player in defense. He's good on the ball. He's huge, and like you can't not notice him on the field.
Exactly.
And even besides that, people don't really understand the quality that he has. I think I've rated him for a couple of years, and I really think he's coming into his own in this role for Bournemouth.
I agree with you there.
The most underrated player for me.
Okay. So my second player, Leicester City defender, last name Soyuncu, Turkish center back. It's a very tough name to pronounce. We'll call him Soy.
Soy.
Currently,
Soy
Leicester
sauce.
are flying high in second place. They have 5 clean sheets. He has a goal to go with it. And the last couple of years, after Huth left and after Morgan left, after last year where Harry Maguire left, there's a lot of questions going around with the Leicester City defense. But it really seems that Johnny Evans and Soyuncu have really cleaned it up for them. I don't see them outside of the top 7 this year. The way they're playing right now,
they honestly could finish in the top 4.
They could very easily finish in Champions League once again. What are your thoughts on Soyuncu? From what you
I like him a lot. I mean, I have him in my fantasy team now, but he's like stat wise, he's like proven to be a great replacement for Harry Maguire. His tackling success, his ability on the ball is pretty good, to be honest. This is the first time he's really had the starting role since he signed for us. I think he's been there like a few years now, but I think he's a quality player in defense. I mean, it's no secret that he's part of the reason why they're in second right now in the Premier League, like ahead of Man City right now, and they just beat Arsenal.
Yeah,
that was a great result, and he was a big part of that result. So did I. Like you really need to take notice of this guy. He's a quality player. I could see him moving on to a better team. He's got to be pretty young too.
I'm not sure about his age.
He is 23. So for a center back, wow. These are young players. These are young players we're talking about. How old is O'Connell? Yeah, check that quickly. Because Ndidi 22, Billing 23, Soyuncu 23, and O'Connell is.
Sorry, an actor came up. O'Connell is 25. So still
for a center back,
yeah,
that's quite young.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he's ever been in the Premier League before. I'm assuming he hasn't. So with that, like, very impressive. But we'll go to the last player on the list. You and me talked about this guy before. You weren't in agreement with me, but Sergio Romero, I think, is underrated. I personally believe, and I am not the only one who thinks this, he is the best backup goalie in world football, like any league, anywhere in the world. He's played. I mean, obviously, as a backup, his appearances are limited, but he's played 7 career Premier League games. He only conceded in 1 of those games, so he has 6 clean sheets. So far this season, he's played 5 total games, 3 clean sheets. In his 17 career Europa League appearances for Manchester United, he has kept 11 clean sheets and only allowed 7 goals. And in his total 47 appearances for Manchester United, he has 29 clean sheets. He's also been to a World Cup final, which he very nearly won, with Argentina. He's a Europa League winner with Man United when he played every single game leading up to winning the tournament with United, where he kept a clean sheet in the final against Ajax when United won 2-0. And to be honest, he was a big part of the reason they won that game, because Ajax had some great chances, especially when it was 0-0 and when it was 1-0. Romero kept us in the game. And like this one goes beyond stats, because I mean, obviously a goalie can play the game of their life and concede 1 or 2 goals. And honestly, watching him play, he saves United's ass on multiple occasions. Like, just pulls out a worldy save, like, just incredible reactions. And 32 years old, United are very lucky to have this guy, and to have had him for this long before he's moved on to be a starter somewhere else, because he is a fantastic goalie.
I would love to argue with you, but I have not found out from a couple months ago how important a backup goalie is, a good backup goalie is, because I've seen what it's like I currently feel what it's like to have a bad backup goalie and what it does to your team. So I got to I agree.
Yeah,
with
well,
you
having Roberto on West Ham has cost him points. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not joking when I say this. When Real Madrid almost signed De Gea, like, was it 4 years ago now? I was honestly perfectly fine if he were, I didn't want him to leave, but if he had left, I was perfectly fine Romero starting in net. That's how confident I am when he comes in. I have full 100% confidence in Sergio Romero to perform for United when he's on the field.
And even the last couple of years for West Ham, I know we're going on West Ham, but I was confident with Adrian as a backup. I was confident with Randolph as a backup. Like, I knew that they were proven to me that they were going to play well. Even if they didn't play well, they weren't going to volleyball smash in our net. But that's all we really asked for. Just don't do that.
The Romero one, I mean, the stats are here. I know, there's an argument.
Yeah.
There's definitely a case that he plays lesser teams, but look, 29 clean sheets and 47 appearances is impressive anywhere, especially the shambolic defense United possesses in the last few years. And like I said, I have full confidence in this guy. I think he's the best backup in the world. Like, I really, there's not many you can argue who are on his level as a backup goalie. Can you think of any that are better than him?
Areola.
He's better than Areola. Don't tell me. Areola. Don't tell me Areola's better than Sergio Romero.
You don't rate Areola?
I rate Areola, but he's not as good as Sergio Romero.
That's a tough one. Neto, maybe?
No.
I haven't watched enough of him, really.
You're struggling. See what I mean?
Yeah,
You're struggling.
If you gave me a couple minutes, I
Well,
might
maybe,
be able to think of one or two.
This is why I make the case for him.
Yeah,
and I think it goes beyond the stats. You really watch this guy play. Like, I mean, every goalie's prone to mistakes. He makes minimal. I can remember like maybe one or two in his time at United. So we'll leave it at that. Who do you think if you picked one of the five?
I'm going to pick Wilfred Ndidi because of how well he bosses that midfield for Leicester this season, last season. Every time I watch him play, it's always scary to attack because you know he's just gonna tackle you, or you're either gonna get the ball or he's gonna get you, and he usually gets the ball.
I picked Billing just because I think Ndidi gets a lot of credit for being an underrated player, which kind of takes away the underrated part of his game because lots of people talk about Ndidi being underrated, but I have never seen anybody talk about Philip Billing. Have you ever seen anybody talk about Philip Billing?
Besides close friends and family, no, I haven't.
Your family members who talk about praise Philip Billing? But we'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening to another episode. Comment on Instagram or Twitter at MHRPDC if you think that there is a better or more underrated player than the five that we've described in this episode. Also, subscribe to Amateur Sports on YouTube. Come back soon for more daily content.